So I will mark us at 10 now.
Oh, because Kevin doesn't count for one.
Oh, is he not? Oh, thank you.
Only 2 people.
Tiffany, that's right. Yes, thank you. We need one more.
Actually, wait, we're at 9 yet. We're at 17.
You don't really have a sense of what they are.
Get the biggest plaque.
Do we not have?
We have like a huge case.
Wait, what's the question?
Okay, so no left. Yeah, you're right. We have more.
All right.
People keep.
Well, actually, yes. So,
Everyone, turns out we actually do have quorum, so we're gonna get started. We are at
That's
17 and 18 for this
Thank
committee.
you.
We have, hello, everyone. I'm Brad Sherburne, the Chair of Manhattan Community Board 5. This is the Executive Committee meeting. So we're gonna get started with the agenda with committee reports, starting with landmarks.
Okay, right off the bat, apologies for not being there in person. Landmarks had 3 resolutions this month. You want me to just go ahead?
Do it.
Okay. The first one was Central Park. Central Park was back in the committee again this month. Last month they did all the entrance signs. This month they're doing the water basin and curbs boathouse. You might know it. It's on the east side between 72nd and 76th Street. It's a comprehensive rehab of the entire boat basin exterior, the curbs memorial boathouse, and the surrounding walking paths. The basin itself is getting a repair to all the perimeter walls around the exterior of the basin, and then restoring the walking path around it, which will include new benches in the World's Fair 1939 style, and new lighting. The boathouse is going through a significant and much needed refresh. This is going to include fixing the roof and repair of the stone brick on the exterior. Most exciting for CB5, there's going to be a significant redesign of the bathrooms on the inside. So overall, there's going to be 6 new flushing units and 5 new sinks in the Curbs Memorial Boathouse. Importantly, this is going to be the first, I guess, ADA compliant restroom in the entire east side of the 70s part of the park. So it's a much needed improvement. The last piece, so it's the boat basin, it's the boat house, and then it's the surrounding landscape. And the surrounding landscape needs a refresh to the walking paths to make them less steep and more handicap accessible. Overall, terrific presentation as usual by the Central Park Conservancy. All their goals are right in line with preservation of the landmark status, approved unanimously 9-0.
Thank you. Maybe we could turn the volume up a little bit more, because it's a little hard for me down here. But meanwhile, any questions? Any comments? Okay, next one, Kevin.
Okay, sorry. Did you say it was a little hard to hear?
It is for me, but I'm just at the other side of the table and only one of the hours.
Is that not?
Okay, I'll speak up a little bit.
Maybe project good.
Okay, great. The next application is 1181 Broadway, the Bowdoin building. So this is an 11-story commercial building in the Madison Square North Historic District. This is an important one for us. This is one of the first buildings that's going through a commercial to residential conversion under the new MSMX rezoning laws. So there's a 3-part proposal to the restoration. First, they're doing a multi-level rooftop residential addition. Essentially, they're putting a roughly 2,000 square foot penthouse on the roof. They're doing a restoration of the ground floor storefront, and they're doing miscellaneous repairs of the facade. The ground store restoration looks great. At the moment, there is an abandoned weed store. So they're doing the restoration is going to look terrific. There's a new awning, which is a little big, but the committee was fine with it. The only controversial part of the application was the new penthouse on the roof. It did create a new sightline impediment, which, Landmarks is not normally okay with. But at the moment on the roof is a unique mishmash of different, cons different, um, um, I guess, small buildings. Like there's a small water tower. There's a miscellaneous mechanical box. There's just um, a lot of assemblage of different things. So anyway, so the penthouse, although it impeded the new sight line, it was a significant aesthetic improvement to what's there at the moment. So we wrote up the resolution, kind of acknowledging that, we're not in favor of new additions impeding a sight line, but given that what's there is so just god awful, the improvement warranted the exception. So again, approved unanimously 900.
Great, thank you. Questions? Comments? Yeah, next one.
Okay, the last one. This was an approval to approve a previous violation. So 25 East 21st Street, the applicant had Rainbow Studio. They put a complete translucent but opaque window film covering the entire windows of the exterior of the retail storefront. Unfortunately, the law for the area and the Ladies Mile district is that it can be no more than 50% of the storefront covering. So unfortunately, we felt bad and we tried to talk them through it, but the committee recommended a denial of the application. Um, we didn't take it lightly. We took into account that there could be some modification to the storefront windows. He could remove half of the translucent covering and replace that half with a setback curtain, which would, accomplish his goals, but also meet the standard of the Ladies Mile district. Again, we felt bad. It was a small business owner who took the advice of a consultant that he had hired to do this, and it didn't feel like there was kind of ill will or bad intent on his part, but still the committee felt that the law is what it is, so we went through with the denial.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions? Ankur?
Do you have a sense, given, it's a small business owner that tried, it seems like the things went awry with the consultant. And now it sounds like, if Landmarks follows the advice of this board, they would they have to like remove the window film? And if so, do you have a sense of how much that might cost?
So yes, they would have to remove half of the window film. There's a photo of it on the back of the resolution. You can kind of see it. The photos he gave us weren't great, and that was the best one of the bunch. You can see it's sort of just like, almost floor to ceiling windows on the exterior of the storefront, and somebody just put sort of like a translucent film over the whole thing of it. The point was that he does a lot of video recording as part of his business inside, and so he wanted to, prevent people outside looking in. As far as how much it would cost, I really don't know. I can't imagine it would be more than a few $100s, but that's just my guess. We did try and counsel him a little bit too about, our vote is merely advisory, and the Landmark, LPC has, actual authority to decide, and he might want to get a more robust presentation and, show evidence that he explored alternatives and other means to rectify his situation before he went to LPC, which might, give him a little bit of a more favorable ruling. But
Evan, I have a question for you, because this is an existing non-compliance they're trying to cure, correct?
yes, exactly.
And so did they secure a building permit for this work?
They did not. He just hired a consultant to both, gave him the idea and perform the work.
Yeah, thank you.
The way he wasn't really clear about how the violation came about. Just he was contacted by somebody from staff at LPC who notified him that he was, in violation, and so therefore had to go through this process to kind of cure the violation. And part of it was he had to present in front of us, and he's just a small business video guy. Like he wasn't really even sure what a community board was and why he needed to be there, and um, we tried to talk him through it, but it was what it was.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other questions? Comments?
What was the vote?
Unanimous. Right.
Unanimous.
And what was the unanimous vote?
9-0-0-0.
Denial.
Denial.
The denial, yeah.
For denial.
Okay, next, moving on to parks.
All right, so Parks had two resolutions this week, this month. The first one is from Nike Toma. Let me get the name of the applicant correctly. It was Ideco Productions LLC. They were presenting on behalf of Nike. They are setting up a soccer stadium within Bryant Park. So a couple of things about the setup. It basically takes up about 2/3 of Bryant Park. So, big chunk of the park is covered for about 13 days. That includes setup, the event, and the taking down of the setup. So there is going to be Nike sponsorship. There's going to be big signage. There's going to be sale of Nike apparel and shoes, and food and beverage concessions will be there. Let's see. They're looking at hosting approximately 1,000 people inside the structure. This is going to be on the main lawn of Bryant Park, with roughly 200 workers / staff. There's going to be giant screens facing outside for people to watch from the outside, with sound systems as well. There will be amplified sound. And it's the 3 event days is going to include opening ceremonies, host remarks, soccer programming, and matches. All in all, the committee felt very strongly. I wasn't at the meeting, but the committee felt very strongly that for a whole bunch of different reasons, they were going to deny the application, to deny unless application. And the biggest concerns obviously were the sheer scale of the event. So it's 2/3 of the park that's been taken up. The setup and event and the takedown, the strike down time, which is quite substantial. The fact that it's happening in June, which is a very busy time, especially for that part of the city, considering it's going to be, there are going to be pride events all over. The applicant did not provide enough information on ADA accessible concessions, accessibility. They did not provide enough information on the amplified sound. What else? And give me 1 second. And also about the sanitation and the restoration plan. So all of that information was missing from the presentation and from the questionnaire that we make applicants sign on to. They also did not disclose, and they don't usually do this, but in this case, we thought it was particularly important that they disclose the financial contribution and other public benefits associated with the event, so that we could then make some sort of a cost benefit analysis, considering, for a smaller scale event, I guess it would be less pertinent, but in this case, because the sheer scale and the length of the event is so big, we thought that information was pertinent, and the applicant refused to provide that information. So in light of all of that, it's a deny unless the duration of the park occupation is significantly reduced, including the load and time. The application provides complete accessibility and mitigation and sound mitigation, sanitation, and restoration plans. They disclose the financial contribution and other public benefits, with the event sufficient to permit an evaluation of whether the temporary loss of public park space is justified by the benefits provided by the public. So that was the conclusion. Oh, the vote was, one against, the rest in favor,
9100.
and 1-0-0.
Questions, Samir?
We didn't get a copy of this resolution. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in this packet that's on
Oh,
the
it's in
table.
the physical.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
not, so it has
it's-
come in, I was gonna
Yeah,
ask.
it's the
Okay.
most, sorry, is there a copy?
I think we're all at a physical. because it-
Yeah,
That's fine,
apologies,
okay.
there was a little delay in getting
That's
that.
fine.
I just looked at yours. That was, my question was just gonna be, when is the resolution coming in? I just. No, no, it's fine, but it is right here, so that's great.
I finished rewriting
great.
it last night.
Any other questions? Nancy?
Did they offer a plan for bathrooms, porta potties, something?
No,
So they're having 1,000 people, food and beverage, no bathrooms.
except for the ones that are already
Yeah,
there.
Brian Parkin. But I'm not saying it's official,
They,
I'm just saying.
you know how many they
1,000
have?
No, I know.
It's not enough for 1,000.
Listen,
Any other questions? Comments? Just one, Renal, the decibel and the ADA is not actually part of the resolved clause in this packet, the one of the packets, so if we want to, if that was one of the conditions.
Oh.
Or that makes it sway in.
Yes, okay. Thank you. I will put that on there.
Any other comments?
So sound mitigation on there, but I'll make sure.
Not enough bathrooms.
I guess on the resolved, it says significantly fewer than 12 days, was significantly defined in the meeting.
No. Not that I know of. I wasn't at the meeting.
Well, is it?
We felt that the 12 together with the timing was just too
No, it makes
disruptive.
sense, I just wasn't, I feel like if we're saying deny unless,
Yeah,
I would wanna know like.
like is 1 day okay or 2 days okay? Yeah. I mean, so the way that the setup and the strike down time is currently, I believe, right here. So it's actually, so the actual event is only the 25th, 26th, and 27th, but the setup starts on June 20th and goes on till the 25th. So it's a long setup time, followed by then from the 27th to July 2nd, they're taking it all down.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tough. Okay, any other comments? Okay, Bernal, is it gonna be you or Libby presenting this at full board, do you know?
I'm hoping it's Libby.
All right, well, I'll let you sort that out afterwards. All right, on to the next one.
Okay, well, the second one is, it's actually an assembly bill. Let's see, let me get the letters right. Assembly Bill S1464A/A1749A, also known as the PRRIA, or the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act. That is currently, has been proposed in the State Assembly by Assemblywoman Deborah Glick. So what this aims to do is basically, I mean, the ultimate aim is to reduce excess packaging and also to shift manufacturers away from non-reusable packaging to more reusable packaging, and essentially require more recyclability. And the way that they're doing it is through essentially a disincentive system by charging them for the excess packaging. And the idea is to then use the proceeds to then fund, among other things, recycling efforts at, it's like, let me just get this right. Right, here we go. Apologies, I have this pulled up, but now I don't. Um. Yes, please, thank you. Be much easier this way. So yeah, so the idea is really. Right, so, the first thing it's trying to do is essentially reduce excess packaging. Producers will be required to gradually reduce excess packaging. You are basically incentivizing or disincentivizing producers to shift to reusable packaging by requiring reusable packaging. And then you are also requiring packaging recyclability. So more recycled materials available for post-consumer recycled content, and ensures fewer environmentally damaging materials in packaging, as they often disrupt the recycling process. And then finally, they're banning toxins from packaging. They have a list of toxins that will be removed from all packaging over time. Not only are these unsafe to have near food items, but they're also unsafe in our households and in the waste stream, and they create harmful toxic leachate, which seeps from land fills. The way they do it is they charge producers for producing such packaging, and then redirects that producer fee towards cost of administering the program. B, reimbursing municipalities and service providers for eligible recycling and disposal services, and supporting collection and processing infrastructure, conducting public education and outreach, and improving reduction, reuse, refill, and recycling systems. So, I mean, that's basically it. The legislation also requires state oversight by the Department of Environmental Conservation, including rulemaking, enforcement, approval of program plans, creation of minimum recyclables list, a statewide packaging reduction, reuse, and recycling needs assessment, and public reporting on program performance. So yes, then this is also important that it protects local merchants, corner stores, and neighborhood bodegas by fully exempting any small businesses with less than $5 million in annual sales from these reduction in fee requirements. So the vote on this was unanimous to approve this, none opposed. I guess that's what unanimous means.
Any questions? Comments? Renal, transportation.
You want me to?
Yeah, if you can put that DOT, that single slide up first, a little. I know the other PDF from that email with the list of DOT items. Yeah. So this isn't
People online see that? Give us a thumbs up, Tiffany or Kevin.
Yes.
All right, great.
So yeah, this isn't part of a resolution, but there's been a lot of flow with DOT over the last several months. And so I summarized all of the different things that we've been working on with DOT. And actually, this morning I got a note from the Manhattan DOT person that the 34th Street busway has been approved. Yeah, so I guess they worked out a deal
Nice.
with the feds.
Right.
They would make it part of the Metropolitan Transportation Planning map.
That's great.
So yeah, so that's gonna move ahead, and it's actually gonna move ahead pretty quickly. But you know, this is like the whole laundry list of things either in the recent past or that we're currently working on, or that we hope will happen going forward, things like the Penn Station public realm. So yeah, it's pretty you know, credit to DOT and to the current administration for bringing a lot of these things forward. So that's just for background. So the resolution we have is the first item on this list, Park Avenue Vision. Yeah, the first page of that one. So I get the yeah. So this is the project area, which is just basically the area north of north is to the right of Grand Central, running up to 55th Street. And what's going on is that the train shed for Grand Central Station, which is below Park Avenue, that whole structure is being replaced in stages over the next many years. And as part of that, the medians in Park Avenue are gonna be replaced. I mean, the whole roadway is gonna be rebuilt, and so the medians are being replanned as part of that. And there were basically two proposals. Now, that there's a public meeting that we attended a few months ago, and they only had one concept. That was the only thing up for discussion. In the meantime, they decided to try to address the bike lane questions. If you go to the next page. Yeah, so this is the version without the bike lane, and you'll notice there's two variants of the median. The one at the bottom of the page is full width, that's 48 feet. The current medians are 20 feet, so a lane, two lanes are being dropped. So it's basically a parking lane, which I think is a bad name because there's no parking lot. But it's parking lane on each side and then two traffic lanes. And then if you look just up the page, the one in the middle that's kind of a zigzag, that's a left-hand turn island. So that's actually it's 38 feet instead of 48 feet. And it's 38 feet, you know, in that kind of zigzag pattern, and then it alternates like that all the way up. So this was the plan, as I said, without the bike lane, and I think what we heard in the meeting was that the planted area in these was approximately 40% of the whole area of. And then the alternate, this is with a two-direction bike lane, which knocks the planted area down to something like 25%. At the public meeting that we were part of a few months ago, there really was no clear support for a bike lane. The feeling was it's only 11 blocks. It drops you off in an area where there's no other connecting bike lane system. So it's not a very effective route for bikers. And it also complicates to see the area between the medians, particularly, you know, between the left-hand turns and the straight. There's a lot of crossing traffic that needs to be managed as part of this. So there are bike lane and pedestrian lane lights and left-hand turn lane lights. And if you've ever driven on Park Avenue, the whole game is to sneak into the middle so that you can cut across after the light changes. So all of that behavior would have to change, and bikes, you know, separated from the pedestrian areas. I mean, I will say at the end of this discussion, the unanimous sense of the committee was that they preferred not to have the bike lane in this scheme. And we did talk about in the future. So there's a traffic study that's going to be done in order to complete this work. And as part of that traffic study, you know, our hope is that it'll show drastically reduced traffic volumes that would allow us to take a lane over and make that a two-way bike lane. And the real answer, which we say as the last result, is to finally put a bike lane into Fifth Avenue and include it in the Fifth Avenue redesign, because that could be a continuous bike lane, you know, for most of Manhattan. Instead of chopping it up into 11 block pieces like this. So that was unanimous. I think it took us like an hour and a half to get to that, but that's where we ended up. And so our recommendation to DOT is to move forward with the previous, the base design that just has pedestrian planted areas.
Great. Any questions? Or not?
Was the bike lane, did they propose it to be elevated or separated or?
Separated, yeah.
Separated.
You can see there's sort of a black line between the gray pedestrian area and the lighter gray, yeah, on the other side.
And
It is
how is it
separated.
separated? What is that exactly?
With some sort of 24-inch wall.
Oh,
Yeah, the whole thing is separated from traffic, from car traffic. And those are very high walls. The thing has a slight curve to it so that it drains. And part of it is so that when you're at some of the more open areas in each of these, you're actually at a high enough elevation that you're looking across the landscaped area. you're talking about a pretty wide range of landscaping from kind of full scale mature trees, you know, down to lower plantings. Yeah, but that would be a separated bike lane. We just didn't think what we were left with after you did that was very attractive.
But I'm sorry, just one more question. But the Fifth Avenue design as we know it is not gonna have a bike lane.
Well,
That's what they propose.
right, what they proposed.
So we're saying no bike lane here, but a bike lane on Fifth Avenue, which they've said.
Well,
no
we're
bike lane on
saying
Fifth
no
Avenue.
bike lane here now, like this, preferably a bike lane, along a curb lane.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't put it that way, either curb lane or up against the side of this, but not taking away from pedestrian and planted space in order to.
You're off.
I was just gonna ask, and or for recommendation, because I read the resolution before being spiel. And so just so I understand it, DOT came with these two. And we're saying we kind of want A, but we kind of want option 3, which is, can you take another lane to a bike lane? Just making that a little clearer that it wasn't an option presented to us, but that that's. what we
Yeah, I
would
mean,
like to
the
see.
resolve says longer term, you
Right.
know, everything in that list is not part of this proposal.
Right.
It's all things that we think should be there,
Right.
you know, in the future.
Right.
But again, having said that, we still prefer a Fifth Avenue bike lane, and nobody has seen the next generation of the Fifth Avenue
Right.
side drawings yet, so.
But we have no reason to believe that they might be
We have a
considered.
new mayor, we have reason to believe that you could make a case to a new
No,
mayor.
we have reason to believe.
Yeah, I feel a song coming on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nancy,
I have a comment.
then not now.
Kevin's.
Kevin.
Yeah, I just have a question. Was the presentation like you were given a choice between the option with a bike lane and the option without a bike lane?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at it. I mean, there was a lot more detail. There were sections and all sorts of things, plans. There were 8 by 10 glossies with paragraphs and arrows on the back. That's a song reference too. Yeah, so it was presented as the other being the base concept design, which we had seen before, and then this newly developed bike lane concept.
Got it. So the committee voted for the one that's on the screen now, the no bike lane version.
Yeah, I mean, there was no bike lane concept in the public meeting, but the public pretty much said, including somebody that was at my table that was a big bike lane supporter, he was like, this isn't much of a bike lane. So we didn't come out of the public meeting saying this was a big, important item to be included in the scope of the project.
Got it. And was the main reason for it just to have more space for pedestrians and walking people?
Yeah, you know, Samir wrote the resolution and, you know, early on, it's pretty clear that our preference is to accommodate what the original goal was, which is pedestrian and a planting area.
Cool. Thank
For
you.
the connectivity to other bike infrastructure, I think is important.
Yeah, it just didn't,
Yeah.
it doesn't function very
Right.
well as a bike lane.
Any other questions? Comment, Nancy.
The thing about the bike lane is it doesn't go anywhere. You know, you're starting off in a lot of traffic, you get on the bike lane and then dumps you in a lot more traffic. So that's kind of a problem. You'd have to connect it up with something. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I don't recall them telling us that there was any, if you go to the other slide. I don't recall them telling us that there was any physical separation between pedestrians and the bikes. When the bike lane now moves to the middle of the median, there was no separation whatsoever that I recall. I remember that on the one closest to us where the bike lane is separated from, you can see there's a knee wall there.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the other one, so every alternate median space, bikes and pedestrians are just sort of all thrown together. And that's what I think we were concerned about. If they could put in a physical barrier, but they were not proposing that.
And I mean, the last comment is that, you know, this is gonna get going in phases. Part of this area was already addressed as part of the JP Morgan Chase building. And so there's a private public partnership to produce the new train shed. And so they're in kind of a rush to get this thing. I mean, there was a question of could we table this until we see the traffic study. But really, we want to move the process along because construction is going to get started. I think Citadel building is the next phase that contributes to this, so we wanted to move it along.
Comment?
Yeah, I would just wanted to mention that. Two things. One is I asked them, like, are you actually gonna take our feedback and do anything with it, or is this kind of it? And they said they do plan to take our feedback, and as David said. Previously, there was no proposal of the bike lane, and then they got feedback, especially from weekday commuters. They wanted to see one, then they proposed one. So it's possible that they will take our feedback. into account.
It'd be sad if they told you in the meeting they were not gonna take your feedback.
Well, the thing was like when Fifth Avenue presented, that was the vibe.
Right, yeah.
It was pretty explicit.
I think it was more than that.
Any other comments?
No.
Nancy?
This 48 feet is the total width. And at least 10 feet is gonna be bike lane. So that leaves 38 feet for planting and pedestrian. So there's not gonna be much planting. Or there's not gonna be much pedestrian one way, but it's not really very wide. It's a median. It's a highway, a street median. It's not
Yeah.
parkland, narrow.
Yeah, the real problem is in the left-hand turn ones that are already 10 feet narrower.
Okay, any other comments? All right, thank you, David. Scott.
Yeah, so we have two resolutions. The first one is for 39 West 19th Street, Con Sociedad Salcedo LLC. And the two resolutions this week are very similar. This one was a large restaurant in the restricted licensing area. In this case, Gail was able to negotiate with the applicant in advance, so the meeting went very, very smoothly. So basically, the key negotiation that they had was on hours, and the applicant came in with an agreement to reduce their hours from 2 a.m. to 1 a.m. during the week, and then 3 a.m. to 2 a.m. on the weekends. So yeah, there wasn't really any controversy. There's a series of other standard limitations here, but we approved this one unanimously.
Any questions? Comments?
The next one was also in the restricted licensing area. And this one we got even more lucky because the applicant had already gone to the local block association to negotiate a memorandum of understanding. So we sort of came in with a set of stipulations that we could borrow from. And those happened to also match with the RLA hours. So the key thing there again is the closing hours of 2 a.m. of weekend and 1 a.m. during the week. If there's anything else to mention here. No, I don't think so. It's a big, this one's a bit different, just to mention, it's a private members club, so it is, even though it's extremely large, there wasn't a concern about that being an issue in terms of livability for the community. So, yeah, also approved unanimously.
Great, questions? Comments? Okay, that's it for committee reports. Any comments on the agenda? Oh, sorry, apologies, Nancy, go ahead, your report.
We didn't have any resolutions this month, but we did focus on a key issue that's going to be affecting the livability of our newly zoned Midtown Manhattan residential district. It's regarding an upcoming application that we're waiting to get certified by DCP, asking for a text amendment to allow the installation of an illuminated and flashing advertising sign, 60-foot high LED billboard on an existing diagonal building facade at the southwest corner of 6th Avenue and 34th Street, facing directly into Herald Square Park. I presented a slide deck about ALAN. This is called Artificial Light at Night. I term it Times Square in the Sky for our JP Morgan building that now has facades that has lighting and LED in it, and now Times Square everywhere. And we also heard from a resident of the West 50s about an illegal illuminated and flashing advertising sign on an existing building at the southwest corner of 7th Avenue and West 54th Street. The LED billboard faces north where 57th Street. And this is an enforcement issue that's going to handle by the board office, but it was interesting that at the same time I was presenting this livability problem, there's already the issue where people are having problems with this. And so I'd like you to watch the video, so we can get up to speed on these two LED billboards and the issues. One is a zoning application and the other one is the enforcement matter. And what I'm thinking about in terms of policy eventually is that rezoning has changed Midtown, Manhattan. We're now residential 24/7 mixed use, where lighting impacts will now affect residents and public space. The core issue for me is Times Square level LED lighting is spreading beyond the theater district into neighborhoods where people live, sleep, and use parks and plazas. Documented impacts include glare and sleep disruption, park and plaza impacts, bird migration, pollinator disruption, circadian rhythm impacts. Unlike Pittsburgh, which has one, New York City lacks any kind of comprehensive standards for brightness, glare, curfews, ecological protections. Enforcement seems to be non-existent by our various city agencies. There are existing tools that are already available. The International Illuminating Engineering Society has something called the bug rating system. And then there's also the well building standard, and cities that are concerned about this actually implement those within their zoning regulations. Potential tools within this would be brightness limits, glare standards, dimming, and curfews. This is not anti-signage, but this is an effort to balance commercial activity with livability, public space, and environmental quality. So stay tuned.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Okay, now, any questions about the agenda for next Thursday's meeting or any comments?
Can I just add something to my,
Sure.
yeah, so I should mention that, to the question of, is anybody gonna listen to us? TV6 is not, they don't butt up against Park Avenue, they're a block away, but they are on the East Midtown committee. So they received the same presentation from DOT and then kind of waited until we took action for them to follow up, with a resolution of their own, which I assume is going to be kind of consonant with what we did, but they're taking their own action on it.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, next item on the list is the review of the land use.
Nancy has that.
Oh, Nancy.
I just wanted to tell you, the title of that group that I sit on, and Michael Greeley is alternate, is called PRIFIG. East Midtown Public Realm Improvement Fund Governing Group. And every building that's built within this East Midtown area, and particularly, is it 273 Park? The new JP Morgan building?
Yeah.
How much money they put an enormous amount of money into this fund, and that's what's paying for this Park Avenue
Good
improvement.
design, yeah, so far.
Can I ask, so what do you present, what do you propose, what are you gonna be saying at full board, or is that just an update for us?
Whatever you want me to say.
Let's talk after. I think it's a great thing for you to update everyone on. Might be a little bit tighter for the full board, but otherwise, I think
I wanted people on in this group to know what's going
Yeah.
on, because when this comes,
Right,
it's a text amendment and we better be ready,
I know.
because the floodgates are going to.
I appreciate all that. I think like procedurally, I'm just thinking through like the committee has not voted on anything you said. That like what you just presented was your findings, which I personally agree with, but are simply Nancy's findings. So I just want to be
that's what I wanted to
cognizant
talk
of
through.
that. Okay.
How we frame what you just said. for
Okay.
the full
We
board.
don't have to do it.
We can do it. Let's just
Well,
talk
I
about it
like
afterwards.
it as a warning, as you said, or whatever. Anyway, okay.
Okay, land use consultant proposal. So following up on our conversation at our last executive committee meeting, we reached out to George James to get another proposal to continue the work that he's done over the past year. You should have all received a copy of that. It is basically exactly what we talked about. The amount is the same as discussed, and it is very similar to the one I believe he submitted to us last year. Are there any questions to that proposal? Any comment? Question?
It was 5,000 last year, it's 5,000 again.
10,000 last year, it's 10,000 again this year. 5,000 was like when he did that, he did MSMX as like a pre.
Do we have like projects that we have planned to do, or just gonna retainer for things?
So this would be a retainer for sort of whatever we use him for. I know Nancy speaks to him fairly often in terms of the work that she does. And, you know, as things come up, like when we did the public bathroom, that wasn't contemplated when we passed it last year, but ultimately that was used for that effort. So anything similar, potentially including if the land use committee decides to take up what Nancy just raised, that could be something that George James might work on for us, for example.
Everything that I talked to him about is shared with my committee. In preparation for our land use.
Any other questions? Comment? David?
Yeah, I just think we're always at a disadvantage, as the community board committee responding to private applicants. They know more than we do if we just do it ourselves. So it's been very helpful to have somebody, it's been George, to provide more of the background and more knowledge about, what's in the text, so that we can respond better to the applications that we're getting. If it wasn't him, it should be somebody, and it can't be a lawyer, because I don't think they would ever take us on as client against, private clients.
Thank you. It's me.
Yeah, I know when I guess now current borough president was running for office, he said that he was planning to have like land use consultants that we could, like community boards could use. I assume that hasn't happened, which is why we need to hire our own.
So it does appear that is going to happen, but it has not happened yet. Like that, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, Maurice, that the job posting hasn't even gone up yet, and there's a significant lead time from that. So it may happen over this next calendar year, in which case we say this is great. And we don't need to hire one ourselves. My understanding is there are going to be 2 for all Manhattan community boards. So also it's a little bit of a question of bandwidth. So until we know that answer, I think it's not something we can rely on necessarily.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so in order to refer this to the full board so that we can vote on this, I'd like to take a vote tonight. Pass this along, so Milan, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, let's jump into it. All right, Seth,
Yes.
Encore,
Yes, pass it along.
Kevin,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Samir,
Yes.
Milan, yes. Yoran,
Yes.
Tiffany,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
and Renal.
Yes.
Okay, that is unanimous. Yays.
Great, thank you. Okay, next on to the member survey. I'll turn it over to you, Ron.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that I want to talk about that myself, Brad, others have taken away from the survey. Before I do that, one of the things we had to ask is for chairs and vice chairs to talk amongst themselves or talk with their committees about anything from the survey that they felt was noteworthy or that their committee wanted to action on. Is there anything that anyone wants to talk about that they have discussed? I can speak for land use because that was part of that conversation. So I'm actually going to start with you all. Anything that came to mind?
Kevin, for example, I think you sent out that email for your committee. Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, do you want me to just kind of describe it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so one of the comments that I got, I didn't have many members who even did the survey, but
Yeah.
one of the comments I got was that members didn't feel like they were well prepared in advance of the meeting. So what I did before our last meeting, in an attempt to rectify that, I sent out the agenda as, per usual, but our applicants normally send out like a week in advance these PowerPoint presentations, describing their application and whatnot. And so I simply took their PowerPoints and dumped them into AI and had the AI summarize them, you know, just kind of give you a preview of what the overall presentation was going to look like and what the major issue was going to be, just roughly 100 words each, and then sent them out in an email, just saying, look, this is kind of a preview to the movie that you're going to see. It was done by AI, so there might be material missing pieces or it might just be wrong, but this is kind of like the trailer to the movie and kind of consider it as such. And so I hoped that that was valuable to whoever, said that they didn't feel as prepared as they could be. But
Yeah.
I got sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Kevin.
I got no responses from that email. And
I read it, Kevin.
no one even mentioned it. I wondered if it even went out of my Gmail, but
And I saw.
Along those lines too, and this is gonna relate to something I talk about, I think different committees use their like folders differently. And I don't know how you're using it, Kevin, but all of those applications, all those things can go in the folder too, and people can self-serve.
yeah. No, I thought about that. We're definitely using the shared folders, but I think it's an issue where, if you tell people just click here and then click there, like the further each extra click
I
that
know.
they have to do, just
Yeah,
so I thought, okay, look, I'll just put this all in an email.
right.
Maybe it'll increase the chances by some percentage that it'll actually get read.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, it relates to, so one of the larger overall things, and why I bring up the folders, that's a great solution, Kevin, and if other people wanted to, different people have different comfort with AI, but, we should be careful, obviously, but one thing that we saw, it came up a little in our land use discussion too, is that there is some unawareness of even the things that already exist. It's really just an awareness problem. I think there were a couple of commenters who were like, it'd be great to see some of the paperwork that people have. And it's like, that's all available to you. We maybe haven't done a good job of like PRing like some of the committee folders and things like that. So there's a whole bucket of things that are going to come out of the survey that we're certainly going to talk to new members about, but Brad and I have talked, and we're going to do a quick kind of refresher for current members, potentially at the September cycle meeting, which is, here are the tools that are currently available to you. Here are the current systems. There are folders. You may find these things in them. You can watch meetings. You can just to refresh, because some people in good faith, they just actually don't know that those things are there. Here is the way to use the office. That's something that keeps on coming up too, is confusion about what the office does versus that should be doing versus the board and what the board should be doing. So there's like a reminder part, and that's going to be again part of orientation, which we'll talk about in a second, and then a reminder for the board current members, maybe at the September meeting. We'll remind the board also about attendance and things like that. Another thing that it came up in our land use discussion, and something that chairs should be aware of, is that some folks don't really understand how to bring new ideas forward. And it happened to be at this meeting, Nancy at land use, when we were talking about it, Nancy had just done that by example, the light situation that she just brought up. It's like Nancy had an idea, Nancy did some research, Nancy went to her chair to ask if she could present. And she, presented her research, things like that. So I think we should do a primary at the committee level, but also at the board level of you know, you should feel empowered to bring ideas. Being like, homelessness, we should do something about that, is not particularly helpful. It should, you know, and so give some sort of guardrails around how to do that and how to engage with chairs, how to begin, of course, engaging with the office, things like that. We want people to be empowered to bring ideas forward, but we want them to sort of be filtered into something that's actionable. And the office has a big role playing that too, because a lot of the ideas people have are things we are already doing, or somebody's already doing, or you guys know a ton about. And people aren't connecting on that. So there's that too. So we want to figure out a way to have new members and existing members feel empowered to do that. There are two areas that I think are worth talking about with this group, because they're kind of philosophical in a way. And they came out of the survey, they came out of our last full board meeting too. You saw it sort of very present there. One is how can we best have our voice heard? So a lot of people have a lot of theories around that and say, whether it's down to like how our resolutions are worded of a deny is stronger than an approval, and like different city agencies like ask us to phrase things differently, and like, you know, all of that. And also like these ideas that we have of, you know, consensus, unanimity, a unanimous vote is stronger than not. There's a philosophical question that we should try to get some alignment on with all of those areas. We saw it play out at the last meeting with like, should this be a deny unless, should this be an approval with conditions? And there was some discussion around which was stronger, without any indication of what DCP actually thought of that answer, or our elected officials thought of that answer. That's something the office certainly will have a perspective on. And I don't know, I mean, maybe we should talk about it for a few minutes here, because I'd love to hear what other people think. I'd like to hear the office, your perspective on this.
I think it depends who you're talking to.
Okay.
So when you're talking to the agency, I don't think different agencies are different. SLA functions, I think,
They've told us exactly what they want.
exactly.
And we do it. Yeah. Right. They want to deny unless, then we do that. Right.
I think that it matters whether it's a chair certification for DCP or whether it's a ULA. Is there going to be a negotiation with an elected official? So I think that when it's a chair certification and it's just going to DCP, I don't know how much it matters, whether it's an approval with a condition or a deny unless. I think that matters very much when you're talking to your elected official, which is when it's a ULER. They will go into a negotiation and their position in that negotiation, we have heard, again, it will also depend on the elected official, but we have heard, and in my experience working for an elected official, coming from a position of approved with conditions is a much stronger position to negotiate for them in many situations than the deny unless.
Okay.
That's not to say that's the case
No.
all the time.
And then there's DOT, and then there's landmark, there's also other agencies, but that's helpful.
But I think the thing to keep in mind is who are you directing the resolution to? Yes, it all goes to the agencies, but fundamentally, when it's a ULERP, you're talking to your elected official and how you want them to negotiate on behalf of the community. And so that's just something to think about when you're thinking about those two options.
Question for you, Marisa, is in the same way that we have asked SLA, how do you want to receive these? Has there been any effort or record of us doing that on any other agency
Or elected.
or elected?
Right.
And if not, do you know why?
I think. I don't know why.
Get that out of the way, all right.
Like, for example, with DOT, the applications are often very different. Is it just something that's sitting on the street, or is it the Park Avenue Vision, which goes on for many, many meetings over a length of time and we'll have public hearings and stuff like that. I don't believe we've gone to other
LPC, for example.
agencies with a specific ask. Well, you know, Kevin and the office met with LPC several months ago and talked a bit about how they like to receive feedback. You know, so Kevin heard that directly from the agency. I think that if other chairs want to do that with their respective agencies, we can set that up. We
Right,
can set those meetings up.
Be great.
I think that'd be really helpful.
Brief question.
Particularly now there's a new administration and there's
Yes.
actually some administrations, the commissioners don't turn over as much.
Right.
But there's a lot of turnover. of administration, so we can sit down and have those conversations. again.
Yeah, if it helps at all, our approach in that meeting was one of sort of friendship and mutual cooperation. I feel like when we initially tried to get the meeting with LPC, they thought that we were going to come and complain about a whole bunch of stuff. And when we eventually started talking to them and just said, no, we want to learn, about how you look at the world so we can kind of adjust how we look at the world, it was a much easier conversation, just for what it's worth.
Thank you, Kevin. Go
It
ahead.
was more of a comment. I think I mean, I thought that feedback was really helpful. That is like the first time I think I've heard it articulated that, it's an obvious point when you hear it, that it matters depending on who your audience is. And it's also really helpful to hear that some audiences, for example, electeds in a ULURP want you to say yes. Other audiences like SLA want you to say no. And that's how they hear you. And that's really important to share with, I think, the full board, because we are just, as you're on, this is the point you made at full board last month and why we're having this conversation. People are just going off of what they think might work in one context, but it actually may not apply in another. I also love the idea of meeting with some of the stakeholders that we give our feedback to and hearing from them what they'd like, and then having a set of guidelines. And we don't have to adhere to those, but just sort of observations we've been able to glean and share that with the board so that we can have more productive conversations. So I'd be strongly in support of that.
David.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, what we did with DOT, rather than get, hung up on the language of the resolution, was to try and start the process a lot earlier. So if we waited until they came to us, it was already really too late for us to weigh in because they were pretty far along. So on things like 34th Street Busway, we got involved. We asked them to come to us, and in that case, the us was CB 4, 5, and 6. That helped a lot too. And we actually took it further than they did. We indicated support for a busway, which was something that they weren't really asking us at the time. So we tried to get into the process earlier and, bring them the, sense of the board and of the community, and do it at a stage where they could actually do something with the information. So I think that was helpful, and we really have not had a denial. Maybe a bus application,
But
but
since buses, we took that out of
yeah,
committee.
yeah. So otherwise, we just try and weigh in with useful input, as early in the process as we can.
We're not.
My question is gonna be, do we have a sense of like, what is the perceived difference between the magnitude of the perceived difference between an approved with conditions and deny unless? Are we sort of nitpicking, or is it an actual substantial difference?
In terms of city planning,
Yeah, or in terms of any agency, like, I mean,
um,
Well, it matters to SLA, but a lot, so I think it depends.
it's
The
different.
Albany thing.
It is
Yeah.
different. Because in the end, favorable with conditions is still favorable.
Right.
Whether DCP or SLA or whatever agency takes all those conditions is up to them.
Right.
But essentially, you are saying, bottom line
Right.
is, we like this idea.
Right,
We'd like to see these many things
Right.
added to it. A deny unless is bottom line is, we really don't like this idea as it was presented. If you're willing to do these things, we could come around to it.
and I think where some members, and I'll say myself, where I had trouble last meeting was that I felt, not only me in particular, but in general, the land use committee was generally favorable to the application at 871, 79, what was the address? I don't remember.
The Xtel.
The Xtel, generally favorable, but with some things.
the Wellington.
And we made, yes, And we made a tactical decision to, again, this is my gloss, I'm not saying this is what other people would agree with. We made a tactical decision to not frame the resolution that way. And ultimately, that felt like a betrayal of actually what the committee meant to say. Hold on. But that's what's leading to this conversation. That's why I think we need to get on the same page about, was that a tactical decision that made sense for what we were trying to do or not? I don't know. Or I could have been wrong, and maybe the committee was generally like, this should be a deny. It did not get that sense in the room, but go ahead.
We had a strong, extremely strong, unusually strong outcry from the local residents. We've never had, that I can recall, that much opposition. And several of the people are actually members of the board,
Yeah.
and I felt that it was important that we respect the people that were living in that neighborhood. I'm not. You know, to me, one doesn't matter, but there was such an outcry from that community that I pushed it toward deny unless.
I'm
We
not,
don't need to relitigate.
I'm not
the last
relitigating, right,
meeting.
I was just bringing up an example, I get that, but it was, you're right, and maybe me characterizing it as simply a tactical decision with DCP was incorrect. I feel like that was part of it, though. The rest of it we can put aside, but I think that's why this conversation is helpful, though. Yes, let's not relitigate it, but it's helpful to, at least when folks are saying things like, which we heard at full board, like, it is stronger if we do X than Y, that we're actually, that's coming from a place of knowledge.
You know that, yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin.
I'll talk about the Extel issue just from a different angle. I think that, unless you're on the land use committee, you might have been surprised at the sort of extent of public discord that came out at that meeting. I wonder if there's some way for when these sort of hot button, so to speak, issues are coming up, to kind of preview it to the whole board and just let them know, hey, there's going to be this issue and a lot of people are going to talk about it, and it's going to, these are kind of the key, just as sort of like a preview style, so that people aren't kind of learning about the issues while at the meeting. Just an idea.
Ron, do you want to do your schedule rant now or later?
I'm not gonna do my rant because that also came up last meeting and we can talk about it. But what I will say, Kevin, is, and this is not a knock on Julie, who presented the resolution. This is not specific to that, although I think she did a very good job presenting the resolution. I do think that is the time that most of the board is paying attention. And so the person presenting the resolution in the moment can try to capture some of that. And can try to sort of explain what the full board heard in the public session, which at that point was an hour ago, right? But like, try to say, here's what you heard. Here's how this came up at the committee. Here's how we talked about it. I think that's the best we can do there. And also people can educate themselves before the full board. But I hear you, Kevin. It is a thing that, if you haven't been involved and you're hearing it for the first time, it's maybe hard to sort of grasp. I want to move on to the other topic that we want to
David, do you have
discuss.
Yeah, I just had, look, I mean, it is kind of specific to land use, but it ties to what Maria said before. That's a very specific process.
Right.
And by the time they show up to us,
Right.
there's already been a negotiation with MTA. There's already been a negotiation with DCP. This cake is so baked.
Right.
That if you want to have an impact, you might have to step on somebody's toes to do it.
Sure.
And, I wasn't at that meeting, but I certainly understood that, given how late we are in the process, and the developer, it's not like they came to us early in the process to
No.
work this out.
Right.
It all happened off stage.
Yep.
And then we're supposed to come in and rubber stamp it. And, guess what? People didn't want to do that.
Right.
So I do think you have to look carefully at what the process is that you're feeding into. And how your, response plays into that process.
Maybe the next
I
one.
think it's fair. The other question that came up, and this was pretty clear in the survey, and it's also philosophical, is this idea of how we represent the district. And I'll present the two polls. I don't think we're at either poll, but I'll present like the two polls. One is the idea that we are the district, but in the 50 of us, we represent the different geographies and the different constituencies and the different demographics of the district. And together in our conversations, that is the point of a community board, that sort of we are in our personifications, the district. There are many members and, philosophically people who feel like we should be out gathering the perspective of the district more than we are doing. Both of those things can be right. But it is something we should talk about, because there are some committees and some members who are very actively pushing us into, data collection, surveying, things like that, which can be totally useful. But tabling, we don't do a lot of tabling. Should we be doing more of it? Like that sort of stuff. So what are our thoughts on that? I don't have a clear perspective, but it's something that's bubbling up more and more. You saw it in the survey comments. If you spent time there with members who were like, we need to be out in the district more. And then there are members who feel like we don't need to be, that is what we are here for. We are the district. So do people have thoughts on that? I don't have a clear thought, but I think it's important to talk.
Yeah, I mean, my initial thought is that doing intercepts on the street are actually not that effective. And we should be taking a more data-driven approach, looking at the census, maybe even looking at who voted for who in what neighborhoods. I think that will just be way more people and way more representative than getting, a handful of survey results here and there. One exception, I appreciate the work the Parks Committee is doing, and they're getting a lot of results. And so I feel like with that, it's a bit different, having 500.
The larger N, yeah. I
Right,
get it.
but if it's 10 people coming to a meeting, I just don't care.
Well, so I'm not talking about the people who show up at the meeting necessarily, but that's fair. I think, but what you are advocating for in the first part is that we should be delving into data more to understand what the district thoughts on something are.
Right, so
As opposed to just consulting ourselves around it.
So if I could give an example, if we looked at for the, what was it, the city charter commission changes.
Yeah.
To support building new housing and making it easier to build housing.
Right.
I would look at who voted for it in our district, and if it's more than 50%, then I think that we should support it.
Right.
That is the voice of the
Got it.
district.
Okay.
As
Well,
one-
that would have been backwards, but
Sure.
I get it.
Or like going forward, I would feel that,
Right.
we have a mandate from the district based on how they voted.
Okay.
Well, I'm certainly open to data from the district on items where it seems like there was something clear and representative, like an election on a particular issue. I do think on some of the land use issues that we clearly had one with the charter amendments, and that's important. I think I'm probably more on the pole of we are the representatives ourselves. What I'm particularly wary of is this practice of looking at who shows up at meetings. In part because, and this, I'm not on this committee, but there was a discussion several meetings ago about boxers and their liquor license. And I think that was a fairly contentious vote. And there was an impassioned conversation from a board member who noted, I think correctly, that this is one of the few bars that caters to people of color in the neighborhood. And an organized group of wealthy neighbors had come to both the hearing, the committee hearing and the full board meeting to express that they don't favor the noise. And that board member felt like what you're doing here is privileging one group of people that has a lot of time and energy and resources to organize against a community space for a much more marginalized community. And I think that happens. I also think sometimes at land use, when at the last one we saw this, it's true. This was one of the few times you had a bunch of people show up. They were overwhelmingly neighbors who were directly affected negatively by changes to that. And to the credit of the resolution, it didn't quite articulate that, but to the extent you were swayed by people showing up, that's clearly what was happening. But on a land use thing, there is no local community that can show up. The people who are going to live in that house don't live here yet. And we can't discount those housing. That's the whole point of that. And so I think I'm more on the side of you have to be very careful about collecting data Because on certain matters, the people whose voices you want to hear from might be very difficult to get.
Yeah, as somebody who does research regularly, I think about this a lot. And so I recall, I forget which full board meeting, I think it might have been regarding the horse-drawn carriages. Where I think there was a question around like, what data did we have to support our decision one way or the other? And I feel like the risk that I saw coming out of that was one where we had like very passionate people speaking on one side versus the other, but we didn't necessarily have a perspective of like what I'll call air quotes normal people. So I feel like, I guess where I'm going with this is I'm of the two opinions. One, I really appreciate like what the Parks Committee, the task force is doing around, it's like very robust data collection, but I don't know if that's like really sustainable continuously from a practical standpoint. So I think like I've had this conversation around like data and analytics with some of the board members, and I feel like at least my POV on this is I feel like there is like a de-risking side of this, where like if we feel like we're operating in the absence of information, if we feel like we don't have all of the diversity of perspectives, it may make sense to go outside of ourselves to get those perspectives, not necessarily with the goal of like statistical significance, but just to make sure, hey, are we missing a point of view in this conversation? So I'm not arguing we have to quantify that necessarily, but like I think it probably is not unreasonable to just make sure we have the landscape of perspectives, and then we could bring it into our committees and full board meetings and debate them, certainly. Because I think the other extreme of like doing a 400-person survey anytime there's a hot button issue, I feel like that's going to be really challenging to sustain.
Yeah.
Is there some acceptable middle ground where we can say, hey, you know what, for this particular topic, we don't feel like we've got enough guidance. It could be data, like Samir's maybe arguing perhaps that, oh, maybe there's open data, maybe there's stuff that we can retrieve. Great, let's get that. If that's not satisfying our needs, maybe we do need a rubric or some method to be able to like on a sustainable basis go out into the community and get the perspectives that we just don't have.
Ronald.
I mean, I agree with what Ankur said. I mean, it's between the 50 of us, we represent the district, and I think that we should be making an informed choice based on the options and the facts as we know it. But having said that, though, I think, I mean, at least in parks, I would love to have more people show up and provide input. And I think that as a board, we can do a better job of inviting more public participation, whether or not that input, I think that input will always be useful, whether or not that sways you one way or another, you have to weigh it against everything else that you have. But I think that input in itself is valuable, and we should by all means go out and invite that public participation. And also when folks show up to any committee meeting or to the full board meeting, God, I hate it if anybody were to attack members of the public for speaking up, regardless of whether or not it's disrespectful to the members of the board, regardless of whether or not we disagree with them. They get their 2 minutes, they're allowed to speak, and they should be allowed to speak and should be made to feel welcome.
My understanding is that charter revision requires us to have public hearings. That's our role, one of our main responsibilities. When an applicant comes before land use, they're armed to the gills with legal experts that know the zoning inside and out. They get as much time as they want to present. We never cut them off. The public in the public hearing should have the same opportunity to voice their opinion. So to me, it's the balance of those two that I think are very important.
Then, because I want to respond to these 2 comments. I think there's encouraging people to come, which we do. I mean, mainly through our email, but there's postings for Slack, things like that. So encouraging people to come, and then once they come, making sure they're heard. I think those are totally non-negotiables. That's not, I mean, I think they're important to reiterate. I think, what we're sort of trying to zero in on is, let's take the Parks Task Force. So they're doing great work. They're doing extensive work. There's a different way to think about how you're gonna approach the question that task force is approaching, which is. You could say, we on this committee feel like there's too much commercial activity in a park. We feel that way. We have not a lot, we don't have a lot of data to back that up because you haven't given it to us. Because they haven't. We feel that way. And we want to engage with you in a conversation about that and see where that goes. Like, that's the non-data way. That's the sort of, we haven't like surveyed 1 million people about whether they agree or things like that. That's sort of just, we feel this way. So that's like maybe one extreme. And then there's what we're doing now, which is really doing a canvas. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, those are two different ways to do it. And I don't know where we should be moving more toward. Sure. I think that's what we're talking about. But yes, people should come to meetings and they should talk. 100%.
David.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would reframe the question a little bit, because there's also this discussion about our sort of a free-floating independent body that makes these decisions, because they're the truth. And then there are other people who recognize that we're part of a political process.
Right.
Our boss is the Manhattan Borough President. We report our results out to city.
Our boss is Brad.
Yeah. And both Brads, two Brads now.
Brad and Brad.
That's where.
Yeah, so I mean, the reality is what we're describing is the same thing that the elected officials face all the time. Like, how are they supposed to get feedback on the issues that they deal with every day? Who has time to go and do it? They're dealing with 100 different things. We're dealing with 100 different things. This idea that we're 50 people, therefore we're a broad sampling of the community, would be true if everything we did was committee of the whole, but it's not. So we're really like 10 people, of whom 7 show up, and 3 have read the materials that we sent out ahead of time. And now that's how we're going to make a decision. So clearly, we have to reach out to the community to be useful. I think to be useful to city council or the borough president, we have to be able to say, we're your constituents, yes, but we also reached out to your constituents in a way that maybe you couldn't, or in a format that's different than when you reach out or go to an event. So I just think, we're doing what they're doing in a slightly different way. We can't operate on our own. We have to operate in a way that collects data and collects the opinions of the people in the neighborhood that we serve, and then package that up and relay it to the people who are actually acting on it, because we're not acting on it.
And I'm just gonna jump in now, because I mean, I feel like I think of these more as like different tools in our toolbox for different issues that we have. Like, clearly the commercialization of our parks is something that came up over and over again. So a more wholesome, kind of fulsome effort to get that information seemed warranted at the time. And I think we're kind of seeing the fruits of that result. But I do a little bit worry, and especially in some of the comments that I've heard at our full board meeting, that we're going to face if that becomes, the standard of we do this for every single time. 1, it's not sustainable. And 2, we end up with kind of analysis paralysis of people are like, well, we only got 1,000. I need 1,200. I can't do anything less. And so then we're going to end up in a situation where, what's enough for me is not enough for David. And then we're right back where we started. So I think it has to be kind of both. And I'm also I want to hear from this group, and maybe we'll then extend it to the wider board, but beyond doing a survey of 1,000 people for our parks, are there other ways that we feel like we need to be or should be engaging with our community? I mean, tabling, yes, we don't do it, but I know CB3 does it fairly extensively.
Right.
So there are other community boards who do that, and maybe that's a sort of a pseudo committee, as it were, that like they're at whatever event kind of at a regular basis. And so if there's an appetite to get that community feedback, I would like to understand if people have thoughts about how we could do that in a way that we are not now beyond just holding our public hearings.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I would just say, I think the 2 categories of feedback are the one that David mentioned, which is reactive. We've gotten an application. We've been asked a specific question. And in order to answer it, we're going to collect expertise. We're going to collect members of the community. We're going to collect all this stuff in order to answer the question that we've been asked as part of the application process. Then we have we have a hypothesis about a problem. No one has asked us to solve it. And we need to go justify that hypothesis in order to like make a thing. I think those are two very different things. I see there's value in connecting with the public in both, but you would do it differently. And so I think to answer the question you just asked, I think, you know, if a committee or the board as a whole is trying to take the pulse of the community, and try to get a better sense of where people are at on like maybe a broader topic, I think using digital tools, using tabling, things like that. I think if we have a specific question we're trying to answer as a response to an application, I think that's a kind of a tool thing. And we have better tools for that today. Like, you know, but I think to like the bigger stuff, it's hard. I think that's much harder for us. I think we could use digital tools more, but I don't really know what that looks like. I don't know if people want to respond to like a texted out survey.
I think that we just need to be cognizant of anything we ask more committee members or community board members to do, the likelier they are to quit. Just because of lack of time. So that being said, I think one thing that we could do is that hopefully wouldn't cost too much is we often hear like, oh, we didn't get enough public feedback at the meeting. I don't know how much it would cost to pay someone to go like put up flyers every so often when we have a meeting to see if it would improve turnout either at our full board meetings or our committee meetings. But for example, if they're doing a bike lane on some street, I don't see why we couldn't encourage people to come by, you know, putting 20 posters or so down the avenue.
It's like a pilot program.
Yeah, just like 1 month. I don't know.
Drive turnout.
I mean, other community boards pay people to do this postering and it didn't sound like it was that expensive. So I think it could be something we could try. That's something we want to try.
Very good. Nancy.
Some applications, and I don't know all, it's the responsibility of the applicant to notify them.
Yeah, I think he's talking about for our meetings, not for the specific. David.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I'd add to this is maybe looking at what our work product is, and how useful it is to the community. You know, yes, we pass resolutions because they have to get pushed up the chain. But I sometimes question whether we're doing a good enough job educating our constituents.
Yeah.
How do we push this stuff down?
Yeah.
You know, which is part like on transportation as well. These are like big complicated projects.
Totally.
And so how can we sort of explain what the scope of the thing is, what are the issues, where do we kind of need people's input and try and make that more generally available. So I think it's hard on a, you know, one-off basis. Oh,
Yeah.
I got this thing, so I'm gonna put posters up. But if, you know, we become a source for education on like what's going on in the district and how to understand the issues, you know, I think that could help. We do face this, you know, what's the diamond water paradox, right? I mean, people should be super involved in our issues because they're super close to where they live, and yet they're not. So, you know, how do we sort of push more knowledge out into our community? So I think that's.
Well, that's what
something-
I think. Can I just say one thing? Sorry.
Yeah.
Nancy, to her credit, brought this up with me, and I think it's a good idea, is that is getting more press and blogger coverage of what we do. Like the West Side Rag, where I live on the Upper West Side, is at every CB7 meeting.
Right.
Reporting on what is happening at CB7. That doesn't happen with us. And so it is one way to get what's happening out, and we don't, as far as I know, there are bloggers coming to CB5.
Not for a couple
There are
years.
also,
Yeah.
You know, school newspapers.
Right, but not like.
Parks meetings get
Sorry,
covered,
but I know I interrupted you, so.
the PPC meetings get covered.
Right.
I mean, we could look at the format of our resolutions also. Yeah,
Right.
we've started adding some graphics to these things.
Right.
You know, maybe there's a derivative product from the resolution,
Yep.
because nobody's gonna read the resolution.
Right.
So, cause they're not even the audience. So, you know, what is it that we can glean from the resolution that's worth passing
Yep.
on to the community? Like, we
Totally.
took this action in a visual kind of way, more of an Instagram or whatever,
I get it.
TikTok kind
Yeah.
of way, just to generally get the word out.
Sorry, Milan.
Yeah, this might be maybe an CB5 office consideration, but you know, once upon a time, we were talking about budget. And one of the things we can consider is maybe an affordance for like panel providers where you can do targeted pulse type surveys or queries of the local community. Without having to maintain overhead, it's just a fee, a cost. What if we were to cost that out and maybe present, hey, we can do this on a ad hoc basis whenever there's a particularly thorny or whatever the issue is. We could operationalize that, cost it out and present that as an option to see how do we feel about this.
Sorry, what is the thing?
A panel access. So for example, there's companies where you
Like
can
gather 20 people in a room.
like, or not even that, no, completely online. You can just do a very short, quick targeted survey about a particular topic. Do it ad hoc. It doesn't require like an ongoing engagement, things like that. It just requires being able to pay anywhere from like 20 to up to I'm gonna overestimate here, up to $50 maybe per a respondent. So if you were comfortable with say, hey, I don't mind having like 30 people who live in CB5 chime in on this particular topic. You can do the math and figure out like, okay, that could be, potentially a couple $100 depending. If something like that makes sense for us, or if we feel like that's a direction, that's absolutely doable. Like companies do this, all sorts of orgs do stuff like this. I wouldn't be surprised if other community boards somewhere do stuff like that, to be honest, so.
I
I think
Don't wanna
Marisa
go on
should
the-
be a TikTok star. I think Marisa should just be TikTok.
I mean, I.
The purple wall
well,
behind you, yeah.
For a long time that, we don't really have the capacity in the
Yeah.
office to keep up with social media.
Yeah.
But it is something absolutely missing.
Yeah.
From CB5.
Totally.
So that is something I think that probably should get addressed.
Yeah.
That's our technology officer.
Can I just,
Yeah,
Is it-
just quickly before you jump back, I mean, I think these are all great kind of feedback, and I think
Yeah.
there's a lot to think about here, and so I don't wanna belabor this point, and we can always circle back to this in future exec meetings about, oh, I had this idea, and we'll probably take some of this back and think a little bit further about how we might bring some of this into the way that we work in the
I think
future,
that's
but I just don't wanna,
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
helpful.
Yeah.
Good for us to just be talking.
So Milan, if you wanna, Marisa, and then.
That's what I was gonna say. Maybe we can just talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, one other thing I
Yeah.
wanted to bring up, there are some resources that I've tried to get the board over the years interested in. I think a really basic one that could be very helpful is the census training. The census adds information that is available and incredibly useful and very hyper local. That anyone can access. And it's everything from, how people commute into the district, all the various methods that they use, how that's changed year over year, so that you don't need to be making assumptions. You can actually have the data in front of you. How you choose to use it, how you choose to present that is up to you. But I think there are sometimes a lot of assumptions made when we actually have the resources to get the actual data. And they will come and present to the board, and teach the board members how to, how to find the data, how to
Yeah.
use it, how to search very hyper locally for all the various things, everything that's transportation, parks,
Is that part of the open
Restaurant,
data
business.
training that you sent around, or is that different?
yeah, I mean, the city does these sort of civics trainings, so a little bit different, but the census, federal census has local folks, and so there's a New York, a Manhattan-based census person, Jolie, she's terrific, she has a great training. I've taken it, and it's available for board members, and they have one specifically for community boards, so I think it would be a great resource.
Okay, final thoughts, Samir and then Nancy.
I like the survey idea that Milan had.
Maybe we should appoint on every committee one person that really digs into the census and keeps track of that. You mean appointed position, you give a chair, a vice chair, and a data researcher.
All right, I'm gonna switch up the agenda a little bit and we're gonna jump to new member onboarding, because I think some of that is also a little bit related to what we've been talking about. You're on.
Yeah.
On that too.
So, as I said, there's gonna be things that we wanna refresh current board members with, and then there's the orientation. I didn't do the orientation last year, Tristan did.
Tristan and Todd did.
Tristan
Oh,
and
and-
Todd did.
I think I don't know if we've ever officially said this out loud. We have received our new members.
Oh,
They are not,
there you go.
Sorry, I glossed over that firm. It just feels like, anyway, we have new members. They have been appointed to us. So we've reached out to them and done sort of some of the initial emails. They won't be showing up in person until our full board meeting next Thursday. At which point in time, everyone will have new committee assignments and then they will disperse out to their committees, as we have. So, anyway.
So, we'll do an orientation with them. There'll also be a sort of a refresher, quick thing at full board, maybe in September. Josh, for those of you who don't know of it, I asked Marisa to send it around in the executive materials this time. And again, Josh has made a really great handbook that's extremely thorough and very informative. We will of course distribute that. I think then Samir and I have to talk about how I want to look at what happened here, but then also like what we're distilling from that and how it's getting communicated to the new folks
That
that
had a
have,
very thorough presentation, so.
but maybe thorough is like, maybe it's.
Hey, do that with you, do with that what you will, but it was very thorough, so.
I imagine. So we have to schedule that, do that, and then Samir is planning a social event that there should be a date locked soon.
Okay, yeah, since we're talking about it right now, if you want to jump to the social event, if there's anything, I mean,
I just think we need to lock the date.
I think it's more or less locked in, it just wasn't able.
Are you ready to say it in the public meeting?
Yeah, so we're gonna do a public, or
Public event.
a board, meeting slash social event on, what was it, July 1st, I think?
I think that was the day.
July 1st?
Yeah, I just have to put the deposit down, which I'll do soon. Between 6 PM and 9 PM, it's in the district on 56th and
Don't give the address.
Broadway. I'm gonna know exactly what I'm
There's a lot of
Not-
six in Broadway.
Give the address.
But yeah, so we'll send out more information about that. We'll probably just be a social event with food.
Catered, not, it's
Catered
not,
food.
it's not potluck.
So it's
Potluck.
BYOB.
Yes.
It would be
Bring your own
required.
drinks, because the city won't pay for alcohol. But we'll have non-alcoholic drinks that people can have. And people can bring whatever else they want to bring. But there will be food and dessert and good times.
No discussion of business.
No, yeah. So if someone starts talking about business, like Brad told me I couldn't talk to you about that.
Well, the open meetings law told me, so.
So that's your get out of jail free card.
Yeah,
So
we can't
before-
worry about my friends.
Samir.
I'm in charge of music.
music?
Oh, I don't really want to.
No, I don't know if you are.
Somebody gotta be
I
that.
volunteered for mayor. Who's really good at music? Josh, good at music? I don't know.
It feels like it.
We need to schedule the orientation now. So we need to work with Marisa to schedule the orientation.
We covered a few agenda items. Any questions on any of those?
Sorry, thank you. I think these kinds of conversations are very helpful for us to be having, so I know that went on for a bit, but I think it's good for us to philosophically be talking about this stuff.
Very simple.
I'm just wondering if I'm curious about how to organize the sort of general board orientation and the committee orientations.
That's a really good question. Did we do anything more structured than committee chairs? You go figure it out when it came to committees last year.
I mean, no.
I mean, individual, I've seen Nancy's like individual chairs did things, but there was no central.
No, it was a lot of like, this presentation has been passed down from generation to generation. Now I shall give it again, and where that existed for some committees, and I don't know that we had 100%.
So like, for instance,
Nothing.
Josh has in the overall member manual, a whole thing on GLRP. Which is good for every member to know, but you're also covered in yours, so it's like, you need to figure out what the whole board is getting
And like, I know about, again, speak, landmark, that's a pretty good one about what is a landmark, what is like, how do we do this, what is this, what is that, and those are good, but I don't know that thing exists for every committee.
And nor are people gonna actually self-serve. If you say, go look at landmarks, no one's gonna actually do that,
So
so
you have
like,
to have a meeting where that happens, either at one of your scheduled meetings or a separate meeting.
I mean, even people not on that committee. Like, they might be interested in that, there's also that. It's a great question.
My sense
You
that
have
needs to be a little bit more
Centralized,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
That's a great point. Okay, we will take that on. if you are a chair and you are in this meeting listening to me talk, can you send me the most recent version of whatever your onboarding materials are? That would be very helpful. Thank you.
All right, the last item we have, was circulated before, but it is new pieces of city council legislation. These have come up, they were discussed last month's borough board, and the reason they're coming up is because they directly relate to our work. I'm gonna do my best to summarize both of these. We'll do one at a time, and I'm gonna do my best to summarize these in the most neutral way possible. And then we can kind of talk through what we feel about that, and if we so choose, as some other boards I know have done, we can issue a resolution to that effect. So the first one is intro 501, which is a proposed piece of legislation that has come through actually for a few years now at this point, I think. And what it does is it turns the district manager position into a term limited one. So it would be every 4 years, the district manager's term would expire. I believe there's a provision for it to be renewed, but I'm not exactly, it's not entirely clear to me what the conditions under which that happens. And they could also be at any point in time removed by the borough president's office. Did I miss any salient details, Marissa?
That's it.
All right.
Whether you want anybody to ever take the job.
So let's start with questions. Any questions to that?
Oh, for instance.
Yeah.
Anything that spurred this? It's like surprising.
I mean, it was introduced by one of the city council members, so that's why we're talking about it. Currently, when I looked a couple days ago, it only has that member as a sponsor. But it is directly related to the work that we do, so it seems like we probably, if we have an opinion, we should say it. Samir.
Yeah, so I guess this is the same. Actually, no, it's a comment, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Any other questions? Comment, Samir.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Oh, question.
So it's a four-year term, can be renewed at the discretion of the borough president.
No, it can be.
Limited.
It can be, the board can put the person up every 4 years. The borough president has to act if they want to stop.
Oh, that's different.
I see, okay, and then, but there's no overall absolute maximum that district manager can be, yeah,
Not that in this legislation.
there's no term limit, okay.
Sorry, I did have a question.
Yeah.
This version on the piece of paper is different from the version on the website,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to understand
They amended the language.
today.
Yeah.
So this is the.
So the printed version
Yeah.
that's sitting on the table is amended.
Got it.
section.
Got it. Thank you.
So Renal's question is, you can renew the member, we can renew every 4 years. We do it or the borough president does it?
The board does it. There is power given in the legislation for the borough president to remove the district manager. They don't have that power currently.
Yeah, currently the only people who can remove a district manager are the board under which they serve.
Interesting.
Any other questions? Comments, Seth?
Yeah, I definitely oppose it. I can't imagine, without having the continuity, of like the district manager and the staff in general, like what we would have done with all the turnover we had, so, yeah. So, that's all.
Samir?
I have two thoughts. One is this was posed in 2024 by the same council member. Literally had one person then, same thing now, so I don't really see the need to comment on it. That being said, I think the language on the website, I was really not happy with. The language in this printed version, I think is fine, like it's pretty limited in of the situations in which they can remove a district manager, like you have to be gone for 50% of the meetings or, submit a report for why you're removing them. So I think I personally would just take no stance on it because I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. And even if it does, I feel like this is pretty weak.
Yeah.
I think this is terrible, and I don't see anything wrong with saying that, especially since we are particularly impacted because we have a district manager. I agree, it's probably not gonna go anywhere, but why not? I mean, for all the reasons that's said, but also like, how do you recruit for this job? Who
Right.
wants a 4-year renewable with no, like, this is a civil service job that we've all of a sudden made 4-year renewable. It's crazy. It's like, I think the quality of district managers would plummet. And so I don't see why a community board would be.
Yes,
I have a question. I'm sorry.
sure.
What do we do now? I mean, if we don't like what our district manager is doing, what's the procedure for that?
There's a process.
Yeah,
There's a process.
yeah, it's a process. District manager, yeah, the district manager is an at-will position.
Right, right.
But I know, I'm
Four-year
just saying,
term.
just saying we need to play, I thought that was the case, but I wanted to confirm that what I thought was accurate. That's-
Yes.
And I think it's a terrible idea too.
Other comments?
It's complicated. It's like abundance, the book Abundance.
How is it like that?
Well, it's just too many more regulations.
Oh, I see.
on.
I see, right.
So it's back to question.
Yeah.
You said other board, no.
No, go, yes.
You said other boards are weighing in on this?
Yeah.
What, how are they?
Negatively.
I'd be fine weighing it, if that's what we wanna do, I don't really care, I'll vote for it. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Marisa?
Let me tell you why district managers are concerned about this. We were not the first time it came up. This is now the second time it's come up. And it is being, the speaker has, requested a hearing on this bill. So if it were just to die and go away, that would not have happened. So for whatever reason, and there could be various reasons why the speaker requested it, the author of the bill is the deputy speaker. And so it, it's leadership of the council has put forward this legislation. And even though it has just one sponsor right now, it will have a hearing. And the speaker is asking for that.
Thank you, Marisa. Any other comments? Samir?
Yeah, I think the Manhattan district managers by and large are very good. But what I've heard about other district managers, is that some of them are not so good, especially the ones out in Brooklyn, specifically where this council member sits. So I still will be happy to say that we should have this, but I think the same way that we have instituted term limits for board members, that gives borough presidents an excuse to get rid of people they don't like, but they wouldn't otherwise. I think this is potentially the same thing.
Renaud?
I think the procedure already, we have a procedure to get rid of district managers that do not perform. The board can do that. Just having the board having to renew it every 4 years is also, aside from the added uncertainty for the district manager and the fact that, not a lot of people are gonna want a job that can be, that needs to be renewed every 4 years. It also creates extra work for the board, which is unnecessary. If you're not happy with your district manager, you always have the ability to remove them.
I will speak in my own capacity, which is, I see this also as part of a whittling away of community board kind of time and power and authority, because all it does is make us less in control of our own destiny. We have a district manager that if we love and the borough president doesn't like, they can remove. We can't do anything about that. And
If they have cause.
if they have cause, yes. But the cause in this is there are many that they could choose from. And so to me, this also the 4-year term, and you bring up a good point, Renal, every 4 years, a community board would then have to, go through the process of, do we hire the same district manager? Do we go back to the well? What does that look like? That seems like very time intensive on when we should be spending our time on the things that matter in the district. So I personally am not in favor of this. But I probably will continue to abstain as I typically do, but I just wanted to voice that because I feel strongly about this one. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I guess my sense of it is that there are districts where there's been a fossilization of the staff, just like there used to be a fossilization of the leadership of the community board. So, you can see the attraction of saying, well, board members are term limited and the borough president has control over all of that. Well, why shouldn't you do the same thing with staff? But the reality is, having changed the to term limited community board members, I would expect that you would see turnover in staff that kind of goes along with that. Like, as we see more and more turnover in the membership, there's going to be a reassessment of the staff that works for a board as well. So I think we may have already accomplished this by the charter change, the term limit.
Is there a motion?
Motion to oppose it. The legislation.
All right, and presumably on the grounds that we've talked about in terms of recruitment. I mean, we'll have to go back to the recording, but is there anything that we've talked about tonight that anyone feels has any issues, including in our sort of statement? Okay. A second.
Second.
Okay, let's take this to a vote.
I mean, Seth's writing it.
Maybe, I do actually, well, take the vote, then we'll talk about that.
On that note, Seth,
Yes.
okay. Encore,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Samir,
Yes.
okay, Milan, yes. Yoram,
Yep.
Tiffany,
Yes.
thank you. Brad,
I was gonna say
oh,
abstain, but I-
thank you, yes.
But I actually, no, I would like to vote yes.
You would like,
Thank
okay,
you.
I am, no, okay, thank you. David?
Yes.
And Bernal,
Yes.
okay, and that is unanimous vote, yes.
Great, thank you. So would you, Seth, write the res on this? Thank you. And then we'll talk about who presents this, but if you would write it, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is intro 322, and so that one I think was issued, we don't have a copy out here today, but you were sent in your emails, and what that is currently, the way the process works is there are 50 community board members. All of them are appointed by the borough president, but half of them are based on recommendations from city council members. What this bill would do would be to instead, the half that were recommended by city council members are now just appointed by city council members. So it is rather than all going through the borough president's office, they would get half of them and all the rest of them would happen at the individual council member's office as divvied up by the district. So, for example, we have 4 council members, so we would have 4 different entities in addition to the borough president's office. Questions? Seth?
Do you happen to know if it's still like administered centrally in terms of like logistics and all?
It is not clear, but it does not appear to be based on the way that it's written.
Okay.
Because how would the borough president administer somebody else's appointment process?
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe somebody could probably devise a way, but it's not contemplated in this legislation. Question, David?
I mean, do we have any sense of what the kind of success rate is of people that get recommended by council members and how they get through the process versus anybody else?
I don't have statistical, and I'll refer to Marisa, but I think
Like, which are
general
better members?
No, I mean,
Like,
do they all, if you get recommended by a city council
Yeah.
person, are your odds 100% of making it through the current process? Therefore, what is it
Oh,
really
I see.
accomplishing?
Okay.
Yeah, so my understanding is that
Depends on the borough.
yeah, my understanding is that in Manhattan, essentially it is 100% success rate. I don't know that that's necessarily true elsewhere, but
Or at least has been with the new borough president, it could not be.
true,
Right.
they have not appointed anyone, but yeah, as far as historically, it has been
Right.
near
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I got it.
I remember there was a case when Gil Brewer had left one of the seats empty and that was never filled, right?
Well,
That was last time
But that, yeah, with the previous.
with the
Right.
previous borough president.
Any other questions,
Oh, sorry, I have a comment.
comments from?
I think this sounds like a hot mess, to be honest. Like, this sounds like a logistical nightmare. And also, like, we have a district that would be insulated from this, but like, again, let's look at CD7, just because I'm familiar with it. Like, that's Gail Brewer. Like, that's a single city council member nominating, let's say, if she did, so it's half the boards are doing 20 seats on the board. Abreu gets 5 or something. And like, I I don't know why that's good, like having a single city council member have that much sway on a community board. Whereas the borough president is looking borough-wide and it's has a much broader view of what we are doing here, and we've talked as a board about liking sort of to take a broader view. So this sounds like a nightmare, to be honest.
Nancy,
I think someone has to be in charge of the whole process. Otherwise,
What are they gonna have, like,
I
five
think
different
we're just
interviews?
gonna,
Yeah.
like, you know, people aren't gonna get to it. And, my understanding of how it works is the council member and the borough president work hand in hand, so there has to be something that brings them together. I mean, it appears to me that the borough president is having more and more taken away from them, and that their position is weakened and weakened and weakened, so who would want to take on that responsibility?
Somebody who wants to be mayor.
Yeah.
Well-
But no, but I think that's a fair point too, because the.
But I think, but the point for me is you need someone who's in charge
Yeah.
and manages it.
so
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I was briefly chair for a bit, and I had met with the borough president's office, they did say that some council members, you really have to pull teeth to even get nominations. I can't imagine being like, oh, you have to pick the
Yeah.
people. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna
But
work.
also imagine also dealing, you guys, or you formerly, you now, like dealt with one contact,
Right.
and you would have to deal with five.
yeah, if there's an issue with the
Like,
board
you
member,
would
I have
have
to
to
find
deal
out
with
who appointed
five,
that board member.
And also just like in general, to have conversations about the membership of the board, you'd have to talk to five different
I think
entities.
it's good for all of us to have one boss. So it's-
Also, the borough president's office has a staff who deals almost exclusively with community board members, whereas city council members' offices are often
Do not,
very
yeah.
small.
It's not gonna get more money, right?
Not the, not
They
the
should be
spill,
working on they should be working on big legislation, that's their job.
Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a little bit of a devil's advocate here. Yeah. I guess I like the idea theoretically of city council being more involved in our selection, just from the point of view that it's more, it's a parliamentary type body. It's a little bit more democratic, spread out the power a little bit rather than have, one person, even if that one person is really great and we all like that person, spreading out the power just kind of appeals to me in a way. But if we kind of as a group want to say that logistically that goal, as noble as it might be, is, needs to be sacrificed just for the sake of making it work practically and logistically, I'm on board with everybody else.
One thing I do want to note is unlike the last one that we brought up, this one does have 26 co-sponsors.
Yeah.
So this one, I
That
mean,
makes sense.
what city council member wouldn't vote for this?
Yeah.
But so I just want to raise the salience of the
Yeah.
issue. Go ahead, David.
I mean, aren't 2/3 of the members of CB5 already appointed?
It's half and half.
It's half and half. Currently,
Currently,
okay, so.
and it would
if I-
presumably continue to be half and half, but
But
just.
there's only
Yeah.
one body,
Or direct.
but there's only one body doing governance.
No, I understand, but
Right.
it's, they're essentially the people that got recommended by city council are
We're
are
already-
sitting here.
Right.
They're half the body,
Right.
so the outcome is effectively the
same.
same, without the balkanization of like, who do I
Right.
work for?
Right.
So,
So I think we sort of come to a consensus on this. Is there a motion? Can I have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we write a resolution that says we explicitly do not support, what was it, 322?
Intro 322.
Intro 322, and I'm happy to write that.
And who are we sending that to? Are our council member sponsors? I
One
don't
of ours is,
understand. So we're sending it to the
Who's that?
council. Are we sending it to the mayor? Like?
I mean, it's online. So Councilmember Wilson is a co-sponsor of this.
Wait,
This-
right, not Wilson that we previously, that wasn't
Is
Wilson.
that
Was
really
Wilson.
not online?
Yes, I know, right,
Maybe he
yeah.
removed himself?
well, when I looked 2 days ago, so maybe
He
he
might have
moved
taken
himself
the
in.
site, so.
Anyway, so that would go to our
Carl
council
Wilson
members
supports this.
2 days ago.
As
when
of
I
2
looked,
days ago.
maybe not today. I don't know. I can't say definitively, but
council first.
so do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, can we take this to a vote?
He's saying.
I just said this has been a busy.
Yeah, you've been.
I feel like you're keeping me. All right, Seth,
Yes.
Okay, Ankur, oh, wait. He is not, okay, yeah. Sorry, my new glasses. Kevin,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Samir,
Yes.
Milan is a yes. Yaron,
Yes.
all right. Tiffany,
Yes.
thank you. Brad,
Yes.
uh, David,
Yes.
and Murnock.
Yes.
Okay, and we have a unanimous yes vote.
Wonderful, thank you. So, in terms of the agenda, now that we've got that on, let's put these at the end of the agenda if we could, and then, so Seth, you'll write the first one, Samir, you'll write the second one. Thursday, this Thursday.
Like in 2 days.
In 2 days, yes. I think they can be short and sweet. So that we can get them in with the full package to the board.
Not under new business, but under.
No, on the executive committee, like we would if we passed anything.
You're a committee.
And I'd say let's put that at the end of the meeting before the land use, or sorry, after the land use report.
Land use, you're giving a report.
Yes, we're gonna talk about
I
that,
don't
but yes,
know.
yes, you are.
Okay.
You're always gonna add it right.
Okay.
None of us are.
Keep it tight, Nancy. Keep it tight.
Yeah. All right, all right, I think that is it for the,
And don't wanna do the John
Hancock on this?
yeah. So now we're into new business, of which I will start. So, just so everyone is aware, you'll be getting an email shortly, but, like we have for the past few years, the Fund for the City of New York Fellowship, application is open. So we can submit for that. We have been very successful in the past year, getting 2, which is the most we can possibly get, fellows. And so our streak continues again this year. So I would encourage you all to talk to your committees, and sort of brainstorm ideas for what that might look like. The deadline for submission is,
The deadline for submission is your August committee date.
thank you, yeah, so that gives the
That's great.
board, that gives the board office
Uh-huh.
enough time to process, like
That's a-
properly edit these, combine these and submit them in, which I also contribute to our success. So start brainstorming. And I'm available if you'd like to bounce ideas off of me. And
have a thought.
I think you should also do
Nancy
it
has a
here
good thought.
as well.
Let's get them to put together a social media strategy plan on how we should get out what we do.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
These young people.
A community communications plan.
Engagement
Exactly,
plan.
on social media.
It's interesting.
That's
I think
a great idea. So somebody has to write that application, but I think it's a good
I'll
idea.
write that application.
So any other new business? Okay, thank you, everyone.
No, I'll write that.
I.
Thanks, guys.